They dragged the rejected Omega to break her bond, but the moon goddess marked her instead. The sun had long disappeared behind the jagged mountains, leaving the kingdom of Urindor bathed in twilight. A thin mist curled through the streets of the capital, drifting between the tall, cold towers like ghostly fingers. At the edge of the city, near the cliffs where the wind screamed through broken stone, the royal ritual grounds waited in silence, prepared for a ceremony that many feared more than death itself. Lyra walked slowly toward the circle, her bare feet crunching on the cold stones. She felt the weight of every eye upon her, the whispers of the council and the court like cold hands pressing against her skin. She had been the rejected Omega of her pack for months, ridiculed for failing to bond with any Alpha, for failing to fulfill the prophecy that had followed her since birth. And now they were dragging her to break her bond completely, to strip away every tie she had with the world, leaving only emptiness behind. Chains clinked as the guards pushed her forward, their leather gloves gripping her arms firmly. Lyra's heart raced, but she forced herself to walk straight, chin up, eyes forward. She had learned long ago that fear made people crueler than hate. The ceremonial circle was carved deep into the stone of the cliff, lined with ancient symbols and runes that glimmered faintly in the moonlight. At its center stood the high priestess, her robes black as the night, her silver hair spilling down like a waterfall of frost. Her eyes were cold, unyielding, the eyes of someone who had seen countless lives broken in the name of order. "Bring her to the center," the priestess commanded. Her voice was like ice. Two guards dragged Lyra forward until she stood at the very center of the circle. She looked up at the sky. The moon was full, glowing a pale silver, and for the first time it seemed to her as though it were watching her. "You know why you are here," the priestess said, circling her slowly. "You have failed. You are rejected. The bond that should have defined your life has been shattered by your weakness. Tonight it will be severed entirely. You will belong to no one and no one will belong to you. You will be nothing." Lyra clenched her fists. Nothing. That word rang through her mind like a death knell. She had feared it for years, yet hearing it spoken aloud made her heart ache with a sorrow she could barely name. The priestess raised her hands, and the runes in the stone beneath Lyra's feet began to glow with a pale light. Chains of silver emerged from the circle, wrapping themselves around Lyra's wrists and ankles, binding her in place. The air grew thick, heavy with the scent of incense and smoke, and the murmurs of the gathered nobles rose in a low, terrifying hum. And then it happened. A shaft of silver light shot down from the sky, striking Lyra's chest. The chains shivered and trembled, but they did not break. Lyra felt warmth spreading through her, not like fire, but like the soft glow of dawn rising inside her bones. She gasped, her hands clutching at her chest. The high priestess stepped back, her face paling. "Impossible," she whispered. Lyra looked down. A crescent-shaped mark, delicate yet radiant, had appeared on her wrist. It glowed faintly, as though the moon itself had pressed its blessing into her skin. The symbol was not part of the ritual, it was something else entirely, something divine. The crowd gasped. Nobles and guards alike stepped back, whispering frantic questions to one another. The king's own advisors looked shaken. No Omega had ever been marked by the moon goddess herself. It was a sign of power, of destiny, of change. And it was dangerous. Lyra could feel the power within her, pulsing gently at first, then growing stronger. It filled her mind with visions, visions of shadowed forests, of wolves that spoke in riddles, of ancient kings and queens who had ruled with both wisdom and cruelty. She saw the bonds of the kingdom stretched and broken, the secrets hidden behind golden doors. The moon goddess was speaking to her, but the priestess's voice cut through the visions, sharp and commanding. This is forbidden," she cried. "The moon goddess has not chosen to intervene in our realm for centuries. She does not mark the weak. She does not mark the rejected. You are an abomination." Lyra's heart clenched. Abomination. She had spent her life believing herself to be nothing, weak, rejected, and yet the moon had chosen her. It had marked her. A silence fell over the circle. The guards lowered their weapons slowly, fear replacing their anger. Lyra realized they did not know what to do with her. No one had ever faced this before. Then a voice came from the shadows, low and commanding. "Bring her to me." Lyra looked up and saw him. Prince Kalen, heir to the throne, his dark eyes glowing with an intensity that made the air itself tremble. He stepped forward, his black cloak billowing behind him like a storm cloud. The court fell silent. Even the priestess paused, uncertainty flickering in her gaze. Kalen approached the circle, his gaze locked on Lyra. "She belongs to me," he said simply. His voice held no question, no hesitation. The court murmured, shocked by the declaration. Lyra's pulse quickened. He could not possibly mean it. He did not even know her, but there was a weight in his words that demanded obedience. The priestess's eyes narrowed. "The moon goddess has marked her. She is not yours to claim." Kalen's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "The mark is hers, but I choose her." Lyra felt a strange warmth at his words. Not love, she did not even know him, but a pull, a force she could not explain, tugging at her heart and mind. She had spent her life feeling invisible, worthless. And now, in the eyes of a prince, she felt seen. The priestess raised her hands again, chanting in the old language, her voice rising in power. Shadows stretched from the circle, reaching for Lyra, trying to take her power, trying to drag her back into nothingness. But the light from her mark flared, bright and unyielding, pushing the shadows away. Lyra's vision blurred. She saw the world differently now, every hidden passage, every secret, every betrayal. She could sense the fear of the court, the hunger for power, the old magic that bound the kingdom together. And she felt for the first time that she was not alone. Kalen stepped closer, and for a moment, Lyra felt a connection she could not name. He did not touch her, did not speak, but his presence grounded her. She could feel that he, too, was not entirely free from the bonds of fate. The moon goddess had not chosen her by chance. And perhaps, she realized, Kalen's destiny was intertwined with hers, whether they liked it or not. The priestess screamed, the sound shattering the silence like breaking glass. The shadows lashed out again, but Lyra's mark burned brighter, and the silver chains binding her fell away with a sharp, echoing snap. The court gasped. The Omega, the rejected one, had not only survived the ritual, she had changed it. Kalen extended his hand. "Come with me," he said. "I will protect you, and together we will discover what this mark truly means." Lyra hesitated. She wanted to run, to hide, to disappear back into the nothingness that had been her life for so long. But the moonlight on her mark, the surge of power within her, and the prince's steady gaze told her something she had never believed before. She had a choice. And for the first time, Lyra stepped forward, leaving the ritual circle behind, leaving fear behind and stepping into the unknown. The crowd remained silent, stunned. The priestess's eyes burned with fury and disbelief, but Lyra did not look back. She felt the power of the moon goddess coursing through her veins, a promise of destiny, of change, of something greater than herself. Above them, the full moon shone bright, its light touching Lyra and Kalen in a silver embrace. And somewhere, deep in the night sky, the moon goddess Selara whispered her approval. The story of the rejected Omega was no longer one of shame or weakness. It was a story of power, of choice, and of the first step toward a destiny that could change the kingdom forever. And as Lyra walked beside the prince, the first sparks of an unspoken bond forming between them, the wind carried a warning. The world would not let them be free so easily. Shadows stirred in secret places, plotting, watching, waiting. And the mark of the moon goddess would attract both hope and danger in equal measure. The journey had begun. The moon hung high over the capital of Urindor, a pale guardian in the night sky. Its silver light bathed the city, turning stone towers and cobblestone streets into a world of shadows and silver. Lyra walked beside Prince Kalen, her steps cautious but determined. Her wrist still burned faintly where the crescent mark glowed, a constant reminder that she was no longer ordinary. She had survived the ritual meant to strip her of power, but she could not yet understand what it meant to carry the moon goddess's blessing. Kalen led her through the streets in silence. The city felt different at night, quieter, yet full of hidden movement. Figures slipped through alleyways and windows glowed with candlelight, showing families tucked inside their homes. Lyra's heart ached with a strange longing. For years she had been invisible, ignored, rejected by the world. But now, walking beside the prince who had claimed her, she felt noticed, seen. "You are brave," Kalen said finally, his voice low, almost thoughtful. "Most would have cowered in that circle, let the ritual take them. You did not." Lyra shook her head. "I was terrified," she admitted. "But the moon, she marked me. I felt her in my blood. I had no choice but to stand." Kalen's gaze softened, though only slightly. He did not smile, but something in his eyes held approval, a rare warmth. "Few can claim the moon goddess's mark and survive it," he said. "Even fewer can walk out of a ritual meant to destroy them." Lyra kept her eyes forward. She did not want him to see how much his words affected her. She had always believed herself small, powerless, unworthy of attention. But Kalen's recognition stirred something new, a mixture of pride and fear she had never felt before. They arrived at a tower at the edge of the city, one Kalen rarely used. Its walls were thick and cold, but inside, a fireplace burned with a welcoming warmth. Kalen gestured toward the fire. "Sit," he said. "You must rest. Tonight will be long, and the council, they will not forget what happened." Lyra sank into a chair, her body aching from the chains and the ritual. The room was simple, yet filled with books, maps, and strange artifacts. Everything spoke of knowledge, power, and careful control, Kalen's world. She felt out of place, yet also drawn to it. Kalen stood near the window, looking out over the city. "The council will see your mark as a threat," he said. "Some will want to destroy you. Others will want to use you, and the queen, she will not be pleased." Lyra's stomach twisted. "The queen?" she asked. She had only heard stories of a woman cruel and cunning who ruled with an iron fist behind the king's throne. "Will she come for me?" Kalen's jaw tightened. "If she learns the moon goddess has chosen you, yes, she will see you as a challenge to her power." He paused, then added quietly, "That is why you must trust me." Lyra wanted to. She wanted to trust him more than she had trusted anyone. But trust was a fragile thing, easily broken by fear and history. And Kalen carried his own shadows, an aura of command and danger that both frightened and fascinated her. They sat in silence for a long moment, listening to the wind moan outside. Then Lyra asked, "Why me? Why would the moon goddess choose someone rejected, someone like me?" Kalen did not answer immediately. He finally spoke with careful thought. "The moon chooses those who have nothing to lose, those who can change the world because they are already outside its chains. That is why you survived. That is why you are marked. But it is also why you are in danger. Power attracts attention, and not all of it is kind." Lyra swallowed. She understood. For the first time, she realized that her life was no longer her own. She had been invisible, weak, ignored. Now she was a target, a symbol, a weapon, and she had to learn how to survive in a world that feared what it could not control. Over the next days, Kalen began to show her the secret parts of the city, the hidden passageways beneath the castle, the library of forbidden knowledge, the old temples where magic lingered like dust in sunlight. He taught her to move quietly, to watch and listen, to sense the intentions of those around her. Lyra's mark responded to the lessons, glowing faintly when she focused, warning her of danger, guiding her toward hidden truths. She discovered that she could sense when someone approached with ill intent, feel their hearts like stones in a river. She also began to understand visions, the whispers of the moon goddess in her mind, showing her glimpses of the past, secrets of the city, and hints of future dangers. Kaelin watched her closely, noting her progress, sometimes with admiration, sometimes with suspicion. He was a man of power, born into it, trained to command, yet even he seemed unsettled by her abilities. Lyra felt that tension, the push and pull between them, though neither spoke of it aloud. One evening, as the sun's last light faded, Kaelin brought her to a secluded courtyard. The moon was full, silver and serene above them. Shadows stretched across the stone, and the air was thick with magic. "You must understand," he said, stepping closer, "that the Queen will not stop. She will send spies, assassins, anyone who thinks they can claim you or destroy you. You cannot face her alone." Lyra's pulse quickened. "And you," she asked softly, "will you face her with me?" Kaelin's eyes met hers, steady and unflinching. "I will protect you," he said. "But this is not just about protection. You are not just a child to save. You are something greater." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was not the kind of warmth that comes from friendship alone. It was heavier, deeper, almost frightening in its intensity. She did not understand it, and she did not want to, not yet. She only knew that his words mattered, that his presence mattered, and that the connection between them was growing stronger with each passing day. The calm did not last. That night, a figure moved through the shadows, a spy sent by the Queen. Lyra felt it before she saw it, a pulse of danger in her chest, a prickling along her skin. She turned, but the figure lunged before she could react. Kaelin was faster. With a single motion, he intercepted the attack, knocking the intruder to the ground. Lyra watched, stunned, as he stood over the spy, expression dark and unyielding. "Do not think this ends here," Kaelin said quietly. "This is only the beginning." Lyra's mark flared, responding to the danger. She felt its energy, raw and alive, flowing into her veins like fire. For the first time, she realized she could fight, not just defend, but influence the world around her. The spy scrambled to flee, but Kaelin's gaze pinned him in place, and Lyra's mark glowed bright. The intruder collapsed, unconscious, as if the moon itself had struck him. They did not speak after that. The tension between them was thicker, charged with the awareness of danger and the strange, unspoken connection that had begun to grow. Lyra knew she could not remain the weak, rejected Omega of her past. She had power now, and with it came responsibility and the weight of Kaelin's trust. Days passed, each filled with training, study, and cautious exploration. Kaelin taught her to wield her mark, to understand the visions it offered, and to sense the hidden currents of the city. Lyra learned quickly, her fear transforming into determination. She could feel the shadows around her, the spies, the whispers, the plotting of those who wanted her gone, and she began to realize that the moon goddess had chosen her for a reason. One evening, as they studied an ancient map, Lyra asked quietly, "Do you believe in destiny?" Kaelin paused, looking down at her. The firelight flickered across his face, softening the harshness of his features. "I do," he said, "but destiny is not a path you follow blindly. It is something you shape with every choice, every action. You are marked for a reason, Lyra, but it is not fate alone that will determine what you become. It is you." Lyra felt the truth in his words. She had always been told she was weak, that she would fail, that she had no place in the world. Now she realized that she could shape her own path. The mark was a gift, yes, but her choices, her courage, her heart would define what that gift truly meant. As the moon climbed higher, its silver light flooding the room, Kaelin and Lyra stood side by side at the window, looking out over the city. Shadows moved in the streets below, carrying whispers of fear, envy, and ambition. Lyra tightened her fists, feeling the power within her, and a quiet determination settled in her heart. The kingdom was full of darkness, but she was no longer afraid. And somewhere deep in the night sky, the moon goddess Celara watched. Her presence felt like a gentle caress on Lyra's soul. The mark was not just a symbol of power, it was a promise. A promise that the rejected could rise, that the weak could become strong, that the bond between Lyra and Kaelin might be the key to changing the fate of Erendor itself. But the shadows were patient, and the Queen's reach was long. Danger was only beginning to stir, and the journey ahead would test Lyra in ways she could not yet imagine. The night whispered with possibility, and with threat. And Lyra, the rejected Omega who had survived a ritual meant to destroy her, would need every ounce of courage, every spark of her growing power, and the unexpected bond with Kaelin to face what was coming. The path ahead was uncertain. The city slept uneasily beneath the moonlight, and the chains of destiny were already beginning to shift. The days that followed Lyra's survival of the ritual were filled with restless energy. The capital of Erendor seemed unchanged at first glance, its towers rising against the sky, its cobbled streets bathed in sunlight. But beneath the surface, currents of tension swirled like hidden rivers. Whispers traveled quickly through the palace halls. Servants and nobles alike had heard of the moon goddess's mark on the rejected Omega, and fear mingled with curiosity in every glance. Lyra moved cautiously through the corridors, always with Kaelin close behind. His presence was both comforting and daunting. Though he had claimed to protect her, he carried an air of command that reminded her she was still in a world she did not fully belong to. One morning, Kaelin summoned her to the royal library, a vast hall of ancient scrolls, maps, and forbidden texts. The scent of old paper and candle wax filled the air, mingling with the faint hum of magic that lingered in the room. "Sit," Kaelin instructed, motioning toward a carved oak table. His eyes were fixed on a series of maps spread before him. "You have power now," he said, voice low, "but power without understanding can be dangerous." Lyra nodded, her fingers brushing the surface of the table. "I want to learn," she said. "I want to understand what the moon goddess wants from me." Kaelin's gaze softened, though only slightly. "Then you must see the kingdom as it truly is," he said. "Not the gilded halls you have known, not the speeches of the king or the queen's smiles. The shadows hide in every corner. Magic lingers where the eyes cannot see. And some of those shadows, they will come for you." Lyra shivered, though not from fear alone. The weight of responsibility pressed against her chest, heavy and unfamiliar. She had survived the ritual meant to destroy her, but survival was only the first step. Now she had to navigate a kingdom that had rejected her, while learning to wield the divine power coursing through her veins. For the next week, Kaelin trained her. He showed her how to sense danger, how to read the intentions of those around her, and how to awaken the visions that came with the moon goddess's mark. At first the visions were brief and confusing, flashes of shadowy corridors, whispers in the night, glimpses of faces she had never seen. But as her focus grew, they became clearer, guiding her toward truths hidden from ordinary eyes. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in streaks of orange and purple, Lyra asked Kaelin a question that had been growing in her mind. "Why me?" she asked softly, her voice almost lost in the quiet of the library. "Why did the moon goddess choose me? I'm weak, rejected, unworthy of anything." Kaelin looked at her, his expression unreadable. The firelight flickered across his face, casting shadows that seemed to mirror his own inner conflict. "The moon goddess does not choose by what the world sees," he said slowly. "She chooses by what the world cannot see. She chooses those who are overlooked, who can rise despite being pushed down. You are not weak, Lyra. You are unseen, and that is why you survived." Lyra felt a strange warmth at his words, one that had nothing to do with the firelight. It was the warmth of recognition, of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. Yet fear lingered in the back of her mind. Kaelin had said it himself, her power would attract attention, and not all of it would be kind. That night she could not sleep. She sat by the window, staring at the silver moon that had marked her, feeling its energy pulse faintly in her veins. Shadows moved in the streets below, and she could sense eyes watching her, always watching. Somewhere in the depths of the city, the Queen's agents were stirring, plotting, waiting for the moment to strike. The next day, Lyra discovered the first sign of betrayal. A servant approached her with a folded note, meant to be delivered secretly. She unfolded it carefully, her heart racing. The message was brief. Do not trust anyone, even he may not be what he seems. Lyra's eyes widened. Could it be Kalen? She refused to believe it, yet doubt crept into her mind. The prince had claimed her, promised to protect her, but he was also a man of power, trained to command, to manipulate, to survive in a court where loyalty was fleeting. Could she truly trust him? She decided to confront him. That evening she found him in the courtyard, the moon casting silver light across the stones. He was practicing with a sword, his movements precise, controlled, almost elegant. "Kalen," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I received a warning today that I should not trust anyone, even you." Kalen stopped, the sword held midair. He studied her for a long moment and then lowered it. "Do you trust me?" he asked quietly. Lyra hesitated. She wanted to answer yes, but doubt still lingered like a shadow at the edge of her mind. I want to," she said finally. Kalen stepped closer but did not touch her. "That is enough," he said. "Trust is not given lightly. You must earn it just as I must earn yours. But know this, I will not let anyone harm you while I stand." The honesty in his words was like a balm on her soul, yet it did not erase the fear. She was learning that trust was a fragile thing, delicate as the light of the moon. And in the palace of shadows and secrets, trust could be broken with a single lie. Weeks passed, and the tension in the city grew. Lyra sensed spies moving through the streets, whispers in the corridors, eyes that followed her wherever she went. The Queen's presence loomed like a storm on the horizon, invisible yet threatening. Lyra knew she had to act to protect herself, to understand her power fully. One night she ventured alone into the hidden gardens of the palace, a place Kalen had shown her, where the moonlight kissed every leaf and stone. The air was thick with magic, and she felt the moon goddess's presence more strongly than ever. The mark on her wrist pulsed, guiding her toward a shadowed corner of the garden. There she saw something that made her heart stop. A figure, cloaked in darkness, performing a ritual that sent shivers down her spine. The figure's hands moved over a small, glowing orb, and whispers of old, forbidden words filled the air. Lyra recognized the danger immediately. This was not ordinary magic. It was dark, controlling, the kind of magic that could bend wills and break souls. She gasped and the figure turned. It was a servant of the Queen, one she had never seen before, eyes wide with fear and determination. Lyra's mark flared, bright and silver, and the shadow recoiled. "You should not be here," the figure said, voice trembling. "The Queen will know. She will." Before the words could finish, Kalen appeared from the shadows, moving faster than Lyra could see. With a swift motion, he disarmed the servant, his sword glinting in the moonlight. "Enough," he said. "She is under my protection." "Do you understand?" The servant bowed quickly, fear evident in every movement. "Yes, Prince Kalen," they whispered. "Forgive me." Kalen turned to Lyra, his dark eyes softening for a moment. "You are learning," he said, "but you cannot do everything alone. That is why I am here." Lyra felt a surge of gratitude and relief, but also frustration. She wanted to prove herself, to show that she could face the dangers alone. Yet Kalen's presence was a reminder that the world was larger, darker, and more dangerous than she had imagined. The night passed with quiet training, Kalen showing her how to channel the moon goddess's power, how to control her visions, and how to sense the emotions of others. Lyra's confidence grew, but so did her awareness of the threats surrounding her. The palace, the city, even the distant mountains, danger lurked everywhere. One evening, as they practiced in the courtyard, Lyra noticed something strange. Her mark pulsed more strongly than ever before, and visions flickered in her mind. Glimpses of Kalen's past, of the burdens he carried, of the losses and secrets that shaped him. She saw the weight of his duty, the loneliness behind his power, and the quiet longing he kept hidden even from himself. Lyra realized, with a mix of fear and awe, that the bond forming between them was more than mere trust. It was a connection born of shared danger, shared destiny, and the silent understanding that they needed each other to survive. But shadows were gathering. The queen had not forgotten, and the spies, the whispers, the hidden threats were growing bolder. Lyra knew that soon she would face a choice, whether to act alone, trusting only her own power, or to embrace the bond with Kaelin fully, risking everything for the chance to change their fate together. The moon shone brightly above them, silver and unyielding. Lyra's mark glowed in response, a promise of power, a warning of danger, and a reminder that the journey ahead would test every ounce of courage she possessed. As the night deepened, Lyra and Kaelin stood side by side in the courtyard, shadows stretching around them like silent witnesses. The bond between them was unspoken but undeniable. And somewhere, beyond the reach of mortal eyes, the moon goddess Selara watched, her presence a gentle but firm guide, whispering that the trials were only beginning, and that destiny had more in store than either of them could yet imagine. The eclipse of trust had begun, and the shadows of Urandor were waiting. The night was thick with silver mist as Lyra stood at the edge of the cliff, overlooking the city of Urandor. The air was heavy with the scent of the sea and the sharp tang of approaching magic. The full moon, larger and brighter than ever, hung above, bathing the world in its pale light. The moon goddess Selara's presence was palpable, as if she stood beside Lyra, guiding her. The mark on her wrist glowed like molten silver, pulsing with power, warning, and promise. Kaelin stood beside her, silent, his cloak fluttering in the wind. His eyes were dark with worry and determination. For months they had trained together, learned together, and grown into something neither of them had expected, a bond forged in trust, danger, and shared purpose. Yet the danger had never been greater. "The Queen has gathered her forces," Kaelin said quietly, his voice barely carrying over the wind. "She will not stop until she claims you, Lyra, or destroys you." Lyra clenched her fists. "Then we must stop her first," she said, feeling the strength of her mark thrumming beneath her skin. The power of the moon goddess was alive inside her, a force that seemed to respond to her will. It was frightening but exhilarating. Kaelin nodded. "Tonight we end it," he said, "together." They moved down the cliffside, careful but swift. The city below slept uneasily, unaware of the approaching storm. Spies and shadowed servants of the Queen had already begun to converge on the palace, sensing the power of the marked Omega. But Lyra was ready. She could feel their presence, their intentions, their fear. As they reached the palace, a shadow flickered across the walls. Lyra's mark flared, silver light spilling outward. The shadows recoiled, and Kaelin raised his sword, moving like a storm of controlled force. Together, they pushed through the outer guards, unseen yet unstoppable, guided by the divine power flowing through Lyra. In the grand hall, the Queen waited. Her expression was calm, regal, yet there was fire in her eyes, a mixture of anger, fear, and desperation. She stepped forward, robes flowing, a staff glowing faintly with dark magic in her hand. "You dare defy me?" the Queen asked, her voice cold and measured. "You, the rejected Omega marked by a goddess. You have no idea what you are meddling with." Lyra stepped forward, her silver mark glowing brighter than ever. "I know exactly what I am," she said. "I am the one you tried to destroy, and I am stronger than you ever imagined." The Queen's eyes narrowed. She raised her staff, sending waves of dark energy toward Lyra. The hall shook, chandeliers rattling and banners flapping in the invisible wind. Lyra raised her hand, and a shield of silver light erupted from her mark, deflecting the attack. The force slammed into the walls, cracking stone, and the Queen stumbled backward, surprised by the strength of the moon goddess's blessing. Kaelin moved beside Lyra, sword ready. His presence was steady, unwavering, a pillar of strength in the chaos. Together they advanced, Lyra's silver light pushing back the darkness, Kaelin's skill cutting down the queen's summoned shadows before they could strike. "You cannot win," the queen hissed, her voice trembling now, a flicker of fear beneath her command. "The crown, the kingdom, all of this is mine." Lyra shook her head. "No," she said, voice steady, confident. "The kingdom belongs to its people. You've ruled with fear for too long, but tonight we change that." She raised her hand and her mark flared like the heart of the moon itself. The silver light expanded, filling the hall, illuminating every shadow, revealing every hidden corner. The queen's dark magic faltered under the brilliance, unable to penetrate the divine light. Kaelin struck with precision, disarming the queen's staff with a single movement. The magical weapon clattered to the floor, powerless. The queen looked up at Lyra, and in that moment Lyra saw not cruelty alone, but fear, fear of losing control, fear of being exposed, fear of her own weakness. "You can stop this," Lyra said softly, her voice gentle but firm. "You don't have to be a tyrant, you can change." The queen's shoulders shook. Her magic flickered like a dying flame. For the first time she seemed human, vulnerable. Lyra's mark pulsed, sensing the queen's hesitation. This was her chance, not to destroy but to redeem. Kaelin lowered his sword slightly, letting Lyra step forward. She reached out her hand, silver light spilling from her mark, touching the queen's heart. The darkness melted like ice under the sun, the heavy magic dissolving, leaving only clarity. The queen fell to her knees, trembling, and tears welled in her eyes. I have failed," she whispered. "I was afraid, I only wanted control." Lyra nodded. "Control through fear is not strength," she said. "True strength comes from choice, from trust, from love. You can still be part of something better." Kaelin stepped forward, placing a steady hand on the queen's shoulder. "Erendor needs hope, not fear. You can help rebuild, but it must be done with care, not tyranny." The queen nodded slowly, her pride giving way to acceptance. In that moment, a silent agreement was made. The power of darkness was gone, replaced by the possibility of change. The hall was quiet now, the tension dissipated, but Lyra knew this victory was more than physical. It was a victory of spirit, of heart. She turned to Kaelin, their eyes meeting. The bond between them had been tested, strengthened, and affirmed. Trust was no longer a question, it was a certainty. The city below, once heavy with shadows, seemed lighter, freer. Lyra's mark glowed softly, a reminder that the moon goddess was with her and that her journey was only just beginning. Kaelin stepped closer, the wind lifting his dark hair. "You were amazing," he said, voice low and sincere. "You could have let the fear control you, but you didn't." Lyra smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief mingling in her chest. "I could not have done it alone," she said. "You were with me every step of the way." Their hands brushed, and though neither spoke, a silent understanding passed between them. The connection they had forged through danger, trust, and shared destiny had become something deeper, something neither had expected but both had hoped for. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the city of Erendor stirred awake. The kingdom had survived the night, and for the first time in generations, there was hope. People would whisper of the marked Omega and the prince who had stood beside her. They would tell stories of courage, trust, and redemption. Lyra looked up at the sky, the silver moon still shining above, and felt the presence of the moon goddess stronger than ever. Selara's blessing had not only protected her, it had guided her, taught her, and allowed her to transform not just herself but the world around her. Kaelin took her hand in his, steady and warm. "We have much to do," he said. "The kingdom is ours to protect, and there are many who will test us, but I am ready if you are." Lyra squeezed his hand, feeling a strength she had never known before. "I am ready," she said. "Together." The sun rose fully, bathing the city in gold and silver light. The palace was quiet now, no longer a place of fear and shadow. The queen had been humbled, her power checked, her ambition tempered by mercy. The people would see a new dawn, a chance for a kingdom built on trust, courage, and hope. And in the midst of it all, Lyra realized that she had changed. No longer the rejected Omega, she was a woman of power, of vision, of courage. The mark of the moon goddess was not a burden, it was a gift, a reminder that even those who are overlooked can rise to greatness. Kalen looked at her, and in his gaze she saw respect, admiration, and something more. Something neither of them had dared to name, yet both had felt for months. It was the bond forged through trials, strengthened by trust, and sealed by shared destiny. "Whatever comes next," Kalen said softly, "we face it together." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. She was ready for the future, ready to embrace her destiny, and ready to walk beside the man who had stood by her through the darkest nights. The moon goddess watched from above, her silver light bathing the world. Her mark on Lyra's wrist pulsed softly, a gentle reminder that even in a world of shadows, there is always light, always hope, and always the chance for redemption. And so Lyra, the marked Omega, and Kalen, the prince who had claimed her, stepped forward into a new dawn, their hearts bound by trust, courage, and the promise of a brighter future. The kingdom of Urendor had been tested, and it had survived. The story was no longer one of rejection, fear, or shadows. It was a story of power, choice, and the bond that can change not just lives, but the world itself. And somewhere in the silver light above, the moon goddess Selara smiled, her blessing complete.